Hi, everyone. Dan Eisner here from ZLC Employee Benefit Solutions. I'm always working hard to find better ways for employee benefits. And I do this by partnering with finance and HR leaders in the market and by leveraging my relatively unique profile. Over 20 years of experience as an employee benefits advisor and my skills as the only chartered professional accountant working in this industry in the local market. So welcome to another one of my podcasts. You're likely wondering by the title about what Wayne Gretzky has to do with employee benefits programs. This podcast is actually about benchmarking employee benefits, but please hang in there for a minute. As always, I'm going to give you my thoughts, but I'm really interested to know what you think. In particular, do you currently look to regularly benchmark your employee benefits program? If so, in what way, how often, and what resources are you using? If you're not doing this, why not? Also, if you like what you hear and want to learn more, be sure to follow me on my LinkedIn business page to be notified about other podcasts to come. Okay, let's get started. So as I said, you're probably asking yourself, what do employee benefits have to do with the great one, Wayne Gretzky? Believe it or not, there actually is a parallel here. When Gretzky was asked about the key to his success as hockey's most prolific scorer, he indicated that you need to skate to where the puck is going to be and not to where it is. When it comes to employee benefits, many plan sponsors become overly focused on where they are or have been with their employee benefits rather than focusing on where they should be going with their group benefits. In our industry, some people refer to this process simply as benchmarking. So employers may periodically seek out benchmarking information to compare their employee benefits program to other employers. Most of the large HR consulting firms and some industry associations spend tremendous amount of time and resources collecting this information and then selling it to plan sponsors. However, we have to ask, how relevant is this data, and is there really value in purchasing it? So here's some thoughts to consider. Old data. Benchmarking data typically provides old historical information rather than future-oriented information. So based on my experience, the data itself could be 2 or 3 years old, given the work that's involved in maintaining these benchmarking databases. Using old data is a bit like trying to drive your car forward, but looking out the rearview mirror. So technically you could do it, but you may not be able to effectively deal with any curves or bumps ahead of you in the road. If your objective is to ensure that your group benefits plan is up to date, is there any point in comparing to data that is likely out of date? Okay. No future indicators. Benchmarking data indicates where the broader market has historically been, but it doesn't indicate where the market is going, and more importantly, what your employees might want to see now. Note that employees might actually be interested in a totally better benefits plan and actually be willing to pick up some of the costs of improvements. A narrow view. Benchmarking data doesn't reflect that employee benefits are only one part of the total rewards offering or employment brand. It doesn't also necessarily explain the more holistic view if, for example, you're above market on one benefit, like dental, but below market on another benefit, like extended health, both of which are inside your broader benefits program. Benchmarking data focused purely on employee benefits also doesn't address situations where a plan sponsor might simply want to provide a basic group benefits plan, but be a market leader on other things, spending accounts, retirement plans, or cash compensation and incentive plans. Okay, a lack of relevance. Benchmarking data can be heavily influenced by who collects it, what regions it was collected in, or which organizations participated in providing their plan design information. For example, if the survey source is predominantly large companies in Eastern Canada, it's not likely very relevant to a plan sponsor that's a small business in BC. If the data is overly weighted to union employees, it's less relevant to you if you have non-union employees. And if you attempt to take this big database and then cut it down to better address your competitive market, it's possible that the benchmarking data is no longer robust enough to be relied upon. There's no costing data. So benchmarking data typically focuses on qualitative plan design details, but it can't really help with benchmarking the costs of those benefits plans. So some benefits 101 basics here first. Plan design and employee demographics ultimately drive claims. And then claims, along with insurer expense charges and inflation assumptions and some underwriting assumptions, drive the plan costs. As such, the same plan design could have remarkably different costs when comparing, for example, a forestry company versus a high-tech company. As well, insurer expense charges are largely driven by the size of the plan sponsor. So the same plan design could have very different costs for a company with 25 employees versus a company with 500 employees, even if they're in the same industry and have the same demographics. Lastly, costs can also be driven by whether a company chooses to self-insure a benefit instead of having a fully insured plan. Ultimately, plan design benchmarking data cannot by itself help with decisions around costs. And last time I checked, costs are always a significant factor in making any plan design changes. Last consideration, do you need to pay? So we know that most of the large consulting firms, industry associations, and some so-called disruptors in the employee benefits industry maintain their own benchmarking databases. They in turn charge clients for access to that data. At ZLC Employee Benefit Solutions, we still do have access to relevant benchmarking data, but we rather focus our discussions with clients on where the plans are going rather than where they've been. As well, we do not charge for this information, as we believe that it's simply an essential part of what any good employee benefits advisor provides to their clients. We believe it's our job as your advisor to stay on top of industry trends and developments, and we should be able to provide you perspective on how your plan compares and where the market is heading, and that should just be a normal part of our recurring services. So employee benefits benchmarking data will likely always be in demand by some employers in the market, but arguably we believe there's some better sources of information when looking to assess your employee benefits plan. Often the best information might already be available internally if the plan sponsor takes the time to gather it. So a couple examples. What do former employees say about the plan on their way out the door in an exit interview? When a prospective employee does not accept your job offer, did you ask them whether the employee benefits plan influenced their decision? What are your operational managers hearing directly from employees? What's being talked around the proverbial water cooler, or more likely, what's being posted on social media? What does your broader employment brand stand for, and how do you want to be perceived in a competitive market? And how might that influence your group's benefits plan design? So we believe strongly that plan sponsors should really stop focusing so much on gathering large amounts of benchmarking data and stop looking at where you and your competitors have been 2 or 3 years ago. Plan sponsors should start focusing on getting good information to help them attract and retain and engage the key talent they need to execute on their business strategy. Paying for benchmarking data that's potentially old and not very relevant, and that's overloaded with a potentially overwhelming amount of charts and graphs, might actually cause internal decision paralysis rather than helping facilitate better and faster decisions. Having the most benchmarking data does not necessarily mean you have the best information. So again, at ZLC, we believe that you should focus on where the market is going with your employee benefits plan. And then maybe just like Wayne Gretzky, you'll start scoring more, and hopefully you too will be perceived as the great one in your competitive market. Okay, now you've heard my thoughts and opinions. Let me know what you think. Was this advice helpful? How does this compare to what you're hearing from your current advisor or other advisors that you've worked with in the market? If your advisor isn't providing benchmarking data and trend information as part of their regular services, why not? Please let me know your comments. As well, I'm always interested to know if there are other current topics that you'd like to see me cover in a future podcast. Let me know what's bothering you or keeping you awake at night with respect to your employee benefits plan. Thanks for joining me today. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for a notification on the next video podcast, or you can follow me on my LinkedIn business page, Dan Eisner, Employee Benefits Advisor. All that information will come up on the screen in a second. Thanks so much.